Hi all, and welcome to episode 4 of the Unseen Strands podcast, where I, your host, Mo, am visually impaired and will be sharing with you strands of my life. This is a crochet and fiber arts related podcast, although there will also be bits and pieces of the rest of my life woven in. If you would like to come follow me on social media, I am either Hookedonmoez or Moescrochet on many platforms. I am Moescrochet, and that is Moescrochet on platforms such as Ravelry, Pinterest, Instagram, and Goodreads. I am Hookedonmoez, Hookedonmoez, on platforms such as Facebook and Twitter. You can also type either of these in .etsy.com to get to our Etsy shop. And finally, if you would like to follow along with my kids, they are Mo's Kids, Moeskidz, on Facebook and Etsy. So, I am using a new microphone today. Well, new to me anyways. If you may have noticed in my last episode, I was starting to get a lot of electronic noise or electronic issues with my old earpiece, and I think that there's just a loose wire in it, but it being an earpiece microphone, there really isn't a whole lot I can do about it. Now, this new microphone is an actual headphone set with a movable microphone on it, and I am still noticing a little bit of electronic noise, but I think this is more closely related to the cords actually banging up against each other, which I will try to work on, but I don't know if there's much I can do about that. And hopefully some of the editing software will kind of soften some of these sounds, so maybe nobody else but I will notice them. But another downside I am noticing to this microphone is even though I am sitting fairly still and talking fairly consistently, it still sounds like I am moving all over the place, in my opinion. I didn't notice this so much when I was testing the microphone out in a crowded living room and picking up sounds from all over the place, but it seems to be doing it more as I'm just sitting here by myself in the quiet. So we'll hope that I can hopefully get this microphone placed correctly so that we aren't getting quite so much of the moving around sounds. Anywho, I have a lot to cover today, and it being the only day I have to record, we'll see how much of this episode I actually get done, and chances are it'll actually be recorded today and then again next week, so there might even be just sound differences in the different days that I am actually recording. I thought this week I'd start off with a funny little blind story from last week. On Friday, we took the littles in to get their shots. These were their 12-month shots, as when they went in for the 12-month appointment, Leo had started a fever that very afternoon, and so we had delayed their shots, and this was the first time my husband had had any time off since that day. He had had the day off because of working the other weekend and the fact that we were going to be going to my mom's for her birthday, which was on Friday. So he had taken Friday off so we could go right after the Bigs got out of school. Anywho, since we were there, I decided that I would see if there was any afternoon appointments that I could get into to get seen for my cough. This is a cough that I've technically had for almost a year now, and that they had told me that it was nothing to worry about unless I had gotten a fever, although it had been 4 months since I have had pneumonia, and they told me it may take up to a couple of months for me to get over my pneumonia. So since I had the time, I went in and got an appointment and was seen by urgent care. And this time they decided that I might have some kind of asthma that is related to bronchitis And this is something that, if untreated, turns into pneumonia. So surprise! If I had waited till I had a fever, like they had told me, I would be a whole lot sicker when I actually did go in to get seen. But anyways, that's not even the funny part of the story. Since I had originally gone in with my husband and the twins, I was just sitting in the waiting room by myself while he went in with the twins to get their shots. When the nurse had called me, he had not gotten back yet, and she had told me to go straight through one door and into another with a visual point, when I had told her that I was visually impaired and would need a little more instruction than that. She got very flustered and very concerned with the fact that I had no aids with me. I don't know if it was something related to the fact that we were in urgent care and that she had thought that she may have to touch me or do something else that was out of her norm patient practice, but it just seemed like she never recovered from this basic information, which I found really funny, as I have been seen in there a whole lot sicker with something that was probably potentially contagious, and I never had issues with the nurses leading me or any kind of trouble with the nursing staff doing anything for me. And honestly, considering the fact that I was there with my husband and the littles, I really don't like taking them back into the rooms to be seen, since that is exposing them to so many more germs than they would normally be exposed to. And I have done it, but I've always worried about it and kept them in their car seats and won't let them out of them when there. So even if my husband had been back into the waiting room with me, he probably still would have waited in the waiting room instead of going back into the patient rooms with me, which means this nurse still would have had to assist me. So it was just kind of a funny little odd thing, since it so totally threw her off her game. Let's get on to what I've been working on lately. I have finished and started many things in the last couple of weeks. For starters, I did finish my second Stardust Gypsum cowl. This time, I did notice that there may be an issue with the pattern, although I haven't really had the brain power to go back through and see if it's just something that I'm not calculating correctly. There is a repeat for so many rows, and I think that this might be where the issue lies, because I don't know if it's supposed to end with the row that has the little puff stitches or puff clusters, or if it's supposed to end on a row that would be the repeat with the V stitches. This is something that really doesn't take anything away from the pattern. It's just I have a thing with symmetry, and so for me, I would have known how I would have liked to end it, and I don't think that's the way it is written, so it just drives me a little nuts to think of it not being quite finished completely, in my own opinion. And there are a few rows that I don't think are accounted for, or it's just to repeat this row through this row, and I don't think there are enough rows in the original to equal the end of rows that it has as your ending row mark, which is why I'm not sure where it was supposed to end with the repeat. Otherwise, I do feel that my addition of adding one set of the pattern to the puff stitches row, or puff clusters, I don't remember what they were called at the moment, seems to have been a good addition to making it just a little more roomy. And I still feel that this is something I am most likely going to repeat in the future. Then on to another pattern, which I have made the cowl for. Again, apparently I am on a cowl kick. I guess I just feel that they are so much more practical than scarves. And even though I don't mind making hats, for some reason I'm just attracted to the cowls at the moment. This is a pattern where in the pattern the author has requested that you ask for written permission in order to share any of their photos. So since I don't have the written permission, even though I have asked for it and have just not received any response back. I guess they just don't want their patterns well showcased with their own professional photography, so they will have to do with my very amateur blind photography. I mean, seriously guys, if you're going to have a pattern available on Ravelry, don't disconnect the message button on Ravelry and ask for people only to message you through email and then never respond to your email. I think I could have also messaged them through Instagram, but since I can't use messages on Instagram on the computer, I don't have that access to them, so they have just kind of shot themselves in the foot on getting free advertisement. Or rather, maybe just better advertisement. Anywho, this is the Love This Beanie and Cowl pattern by Heidi Yates. And overall, I do really like this pattern, and it really does only work up really correctly with the correct yarn. This is something that it was actually a shock to me that I actually had the right yarn for, and I have tried to work it in a couple different yarns and it doesn't work up quite at all the same. This pattern uses Loose and Threads Charisma yarn, which is a yarn I actually got a couple years ago on Black Friday. I can't remember if I spent $1 or $2 on each ball, but I got something like a dozen balls. I think I got 4 different colors with 3 balls each, and I've only actually used 1 ball of it. So I decided that I would try it with that since I actually had it, and I really do enjoy the texture and how it worked up. Although I did make it a little bit smaller than the pattern said. It said to make it 28 inches wide, and I only made it about 24 inches wide. But these are going to be for my children, so I don't think the slightly smaller size, and considering the fact that it is still larger than the other cowl that I made for the width, that it should still work out really well. I also think this is something I may end up adding to the Etsy shop, as each one, at least in the way that I have done them, takes about 2 hours to make, so I should be able to charge somewhere between $15 and $20, and I don't think that is an outrageous thing to ask for, and maybe it can be something else that I can have as a consistent product in the shop. So far, I have finished one in Northern Lights colorway, which is the one that will be for Jeremy, and I have finished one in the Ashes colorway, which will be the one for Sam. I am kind of hoping that maybe I can find a different colorway that will work better for Sam, but it looked like, from what I could tell on the Michaels.com site, that the only red they have is a solid red, and I think something more striped would be a better way to go for Sam. But all I had really was Ashes that wasn't either girly or something more that would be in Jeremy's color palette. Since I thought I might add these to my Etsy shop, and the fact that I needed something to keep me busy with while I was at my dad's over the weekend, I did also start one in Chocolate Chip Cupcake, which will most likely become my own if I don't actually add them to the Etsy shop, since it does have pink in it, so it is a lot more girly, and I don't mind a little bit of pink. I also have the colorway Sunny Days, which probably would be something more like me, but again, I don't mind a little bit of pink, so I'm willing to see how that one turns out. Actually, if I had my pick out of the 4 colorway, I would steal the Northern Lights from Jeremy, but I think the Sunny Days probably is a little brighter than he would enjoy. He's very much around the purple and blue to indigo color realm for his favorite colors. And I think that's all that I've actually gotten finished in the last couple of weeks. So as for some of my WIPs, or my works in progress, as I've already stated, I do have that one cowl that I'm still working on, in the chocolate cupcake. Oh, I should note that these are worked with an end hook, which is also the same hook that I use for my plarn mats, which is why I chose to take it with me when we were traveling over the weekend for my mom's birthday, since that meant I had a lot less to take with me, and it being one of the large hooks, it meant it was a lot easier to locate when I was looking for my stuff. Anyways, my chocolate cupcake cowl is about 20 inches done out of the 24. It's kind of hard to measure these because they're kind of stretchy. So that is about what I could guesstimate that I have done. I know there's not a ton left on my ball, but I believe that was the last thing I was working on in the car when we got home. So it kind of ended when we actually got here. And since I was trying to travel light, the only other thing I took with me was my plarn mat, which I got about 9 inches done on my Heidi mat in total. I had started this about a week ago, but I had only gotten like a row or so into it, so I did put quite a bit of progress onto it. It's actually larger now than my target mat, even though I've probably worked on it technically less. But wait, that's not all. I also started and have basically finished this angel, which again is going to be a gift, most likely. What I pretty much have left to do on it is I was thinking of getting either tinsel to make the halo out of, or some of that sparkly pipe cleaner. So I still need to get that. And they had the wings trimmed in the same thing as what you'd made the halo out of. So I will either do those in tinsel, if that's what I do, or I may look for something else that will work good as an edging for the wings, or I may just leave them plain. Overall, this pattern was not difficult to make, and you are supposed to work the halo in with the actual head creation, but since I decided that I wanted something that I don't currently have, I figured it would be just as easy to add something later, and you would either just crochet it in or sew it in, so I didn't feel that it was necessary to add it at this point. The one thing that I would change about this pattern is they have the two wings worked as separate pieces. Now, since how I attached these, they pretty much had to overlap quite a bit, I would probably work this if I had designed it as some kind of chevron that you would just sewn in the middle of the back. But right now, my creative energy is with the kids, so I don't have the mental energy to figure out exactly how to do these things. So I did appreciate the pattern as written. This pattern is called Little Angel by Garcia Tello. Now, I do think that this is a not original English-speaking pattern writer, so there was one mistake I did notice in the pattern that is a spelling error, where it says wave instead of weave, but this is a very minor detail as it doesn't actually affect anything in the pattern. And I do need to remember to go back and send a note to the pattern designer so they can fix this error. There were two versions of the PDF for their pattern, but they both said this exact same thing. The pattern for this says to make it out of a light fingering weight yarn, but I had made it out of a sport weight yarn. Actually, it is made out of the same yarn as my Stardust Gypsum, as I thought this would be a good way to use up some of the leftovers that I have. Again, this is a yarn that I don't know exactly what it is. I believe it is Wanetta Baby Sport, although I had gotten it and I believe that it is a pound of yarn, and when I went to the store, they do have Wanetta Baby Sport still selling in Walmart, but it is now a 10 ounce or 10.5 ounce ball, whereas the thing on Ravelry even says that it is a 12 ounce ball, or vice versa. I forget which way it said it was on Ravelry, and which way it was in store. I just thought it was funny that they did not match up. Anyways, I worked this with an e-hook, and I think it is much larger than the one that they had made, but there was no measurements, and it being kind of an amigurumi or a puppetish shape, that it really doesn't matter how big it is as long as you get the shape right. So this is also a pattern that I am considering adding to the Etsy store, although this one I did not time any part of me doing, so I'm not sure exactly how long it took to make, so I'm not sure if it will be cost effective to put it in the Etsy store. So if you have any opinions on if you would like to see this, I would appreciate your feedback. And finally, my last whip that I can think of, or at least my last crochet whip, is I am still working on the doll set from the other week. I did finish the accessories for the hat and started the sweater, although I still need to do a lot more with this outfit before it'll be actually done. I am currently working this out of what is left over of my I Love This yarn in black. I do also have I Love This yarn in white that I can do the white part of it for, but I don't have yellow or red in I Love This yarn, so I am debating on using my Karen Pound of Love for the red, as I do have that color, and then I may just do the yellow in the Super Saver from Red Heart, although I don't really know if it will look tacky if I do this in several different kinds of yarn, although I think it helps that they are on different parts of the body, so it won't look like it's quite as mismatched as these things would usually be a different material anyways. I have not yet sewn on the accessories to the hat, as I do still need to find my own doll so that I can have her try on the hat so I can get them more measured up precisely. As I've noticed, if I try to do this by just eyeballing it, I will get it to look probably more like a bear hat instead of a mouse hat. And now finally, my spinning whip, which is still my sari silk and my wool. I am excitedly actually getting almost done with the first ball of sari silk. I have about a yard and a foot left, although I swear I've been working on the last 2 yards of it for the last couple of days, and I've worked on it quite a bit. It's just kind of funny to me how long it takes to get through each inch of this fiber, even though it seems like I should be quite a bit farther through it. Let's just say I've given up any hope that this will actually be done for Christmas, but I still would like to get through it as much as possible before that day comes. And hopefully, I think that's all my whips for right now. Like I said, I did have a lot to share this time, since it was 2 weeks, and it was the weekend where I was traveling, so there was lots of card work to do. Well guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here, even though I do have more to talk about. This is what I have recorded before Thanksgiving, and since it's already after Thanksgiving and halfway into the next week, there is already plenty to talk about that has changed. So even though I am not finished, I guess I'll go ahead and end, and maybe I'll save the couple of reviews I had for the next episode. So as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please hook the like button and subscribe.